Hello, this is Mr. Goddard, and in today's lesson here we're going to be talking about arrays as instance variables inside an object. We're also going to be talking about arrays as parameters and return types. So sending arrays to methods and getting arrays back from methods. So what you're going to learn is how to code arrays as instance variables, parameters, and return types, and then what those situations look like in memory. And what you're going to do at the end is write a class that has an array instance variables, and then write methods that have arrays as parameters and return values. So, first question, what does it look like in Java code and in memory when an array is an instance variable? So when you have a class, and inside that class, one of those instance variables, one of those properties, is actually an array. So what I have here is a class called shelf, and this shelf has two arrays as private instance variables, so I've got them listed up there at the top. I also have a default constructor right here, so let's just go ahead and look. It's a very basic class, and we have an integer array called item count and a string array called item name. So this is simulating a shelf, and so on a shelf you have a certain number of items and you have a name for those items. Now it's possible we could extend this to be two-dimensional arrays and link these arrays and do all kinds of other stuff like that, but this is just sort of a very basic example. And the shelf constructor here will just by default create or I should say instantiate the array as this item count integer array as an integer array with 3 rows, and the item name array to be an array of 3 strings. So that's what it looks like. It's just, rather than just having int and strings and doubles there as your instance variables, we just have the arrays, and then we declare them, or sorry, we instantiate them in the constructor. So really not too very difficult. Here is a client class. So I said aisle, like for instance, if this is like simulating some sort of store or supermarket or something, there in an aisle there might be some shelves. So in fact, in the main method I have that's it, just 2 shelves, shelf S1 and shelf S2, and they're both a new shelf. And that's it. There's 2 objects. We don't really do anything with them just quite yet. But we want to look and see what's going on in memory at this point. And so after this client code runs, this is what we're looking at. We have S1, which is pointing to a shelf object, and in that shelf object we have an item count, which is an array reference, so that's pointing to an array of 3 rows, all zeros, and item name, which is 3 rows and all empty strings. And S2 is also pointing to a shelf object that is initialized to 3 rows of integers, 3 rows of strings, and zeros here and empty strings there. So pretty basic, nothing real fancy. That's what it looks like when you've got arrays as instance variables. So to continue on, how do you create and call a method that uses an array as a parameter? So for instance, if I want to send an array, or sorry, as a parameter. So what I have here is a method. It's that's going to accept an array as a parameter. So this is going to receive an array. So most of it just pretty normal, public void print array. So just the visibility, the return type, and its name. And then here in the parameter list, instead of just saying int or double or string, I say int bracket bracket, so indicating this is an array. And then its local name here, and I'm calling it R, ARR. And this method does exactly what it says it does. It prints that array. So we've got a for loop going from 0 to the to r.length, and it's just system.println r bracket I. And so this is a nice handy method for printing out an array. How would I call that? Well, I have actually almost a full program here. We've got a full main method. So pretend we've got this is this main method somewhere in a class somewhere, and I've created this integer array. I'm using an initializer list, so 2016, 17, 18, 19. Oh, I should put 2020 in there just to add to it. There we go. And then I just say print array, assuming that I can access it. If this was in a full class example, then I would need to probably have declared this one as static. This method appears static, but this is just examples here. So the point is I put years in here. I don't put years bracket or years I or years 0. I just put years because years is the reference name. That's the variable name. It's the array name. So that's what I put in there. And then when this code would get run, R is pointing to the years array. In fact, so this next section is going to talk a little bit more about that. This is what happens in memory when you send an array as a parameter, such as when we did that right here. So what's going on is the local array variable in the method points to the same array as in the calling method. That's what I just said up here. I said that R is pointing to the same data that years is pointing to. And this is known as call by reference. It can cause some problems, though. I mean, it's a good thing, but it can cause problems because any change you make to the array in the method, so if I were to mess around with R here, would actually change values in the original array. So this is a more full example that you could copy into a class, copy and paste it into like a demo class if you wanted to. So here's the main method. So once again, we've got our years array. I'll put 2020 there. And then I'm going to call print array. And so now you see here I've got the print array method and actually have it listed as static, so I can call it from the public static void main method up there. That nothing's changed there. And so when this prints out, I would expect 2016 through 2020. Oh, yeah, I'll have to change that output. Oh, I can't change it. Well, maybe I should go back and I'll have to change my output here at some point. So sorry, we're still living in 2019 here. Some people might like that, I think. Anyway, so so print array and print it out. Then we're going to do this reset thing. So let's go ahead and go down and see what the reset method does. So the reset method also is going to send the years array, and so locally it's going to call that R as well. This says for int I equals 0, I less than R dot length, R bracket I equals 0. Ooh, that's interesting. But this right here, it's going to set each one of those values in the array to 0. Well, that's not good. Okay, so it's, I guess, maybe it is good. It's literally going to reset that array back to all zeros. So then we reset it, and then after the reset, we print it again. And we would probably expect that afterwards it's going to print all zeros. And in fact, that is what it happens. This is when if you take that code and run it yourself, you would see this output here, 2016, 17, 18, 19, and then all zeros. So let's look and see what goes on in memory here. So at the before point, before the reset, memory looks like this, where we've got years, and it's pointing to the array, and it has 0, 1, 2, 3, and it has those years there in the value column. And then when we're in the middle of the reset method, that ARR array is pointing to the same data that years is. They're both pointing to the same location. So that's the really big takeaway from this part of the lesson, is that whenever you send an array to a method, what gets sent is the reference of that memory location, where the memory, that is to say, where the memory resides, where the data resides in memory, in the computer's memory. So it doesn't make a copy of the array or anything like that. It's actually sending a reference to that. So you make changes to the array down in that method, it's going to affect your data that was back here. They're linked, if you want to think of it like that, synchronized or whatever. So so then afterwards, each one of those rows is set to 0 right here, and after that method is finished, and we go back here to the main method, and we print it again, well, years are all zeros. Okay, so that's kind of interesting. So the final question, how can you have, or how do you code, I guess I'm sure probably need to rephrase that, but how do you have an array as a method's return value? In other words, how can I get a method to send back an array? And the answer is real simple. You just set the return type to be an array using the brackets. You know, beforehand, if we needed to return an integer, we put int as the return type. If we needed it to return a string, we put string. If we didn't want it to return anything, we put void. Well, just now, whatever array type you wanted your method to send back, just put those brackets there. And then obviously make sure that your method actually returns an array. So those are two things we're going to do, and I'm going to say usually you will declare and instantiate a new array inside the method. So normally when you have an array that returns a method, normally when you have a method that returns an array, it somewhere in the middle or the beginning or the end or whatever, it actually creates that array and sends back that new array. So down here I have an example called a rand array, and it actually creates a new array on the first line, and then it sends that newly created and modified array back. So here we go. Here's an example of a very useful method that returns an array of the size you specify, containing random integers from 0 to 99 inclusive. So this code here you could copy and paste it into a demo program if you wanted to. So here's our main header, and I'm going to create a new array, an integer array called 5 random nums equals rand array 5. So what the heck is rand array? Oh, rand array is this method down here. So let's see what we've got here. Public static int bracket. Okay, so that means it's going to return, it's going to send back, should be sent back this way, send back an integer array. And it has one parameter of type int, and locally it's going to be called size. So as advertised, the first line here in rand array, we create a new array. Of course, what are we going to name it? R, because that's what we call arrays apparently. So anyway, we create a new array, or actually technically I guess we declare it, and then over here we instantiate it. So we say it's a new array of integers, and I want its length to be size, which was sent to us in the parameters here, so 5. So, you know, when rand array 5 is called, then size is 5, and so therefore it creates an array of length 5, and then we walk through, we traverse that array. So we say for int I equals 0, I less than size, array at position I equals int math.random times 100. So didn't want to make that too fancy, but yeah, just going to give us an array. This will give us random numbers between 0 and 99, and the first time through it stashes it in row 0, then next time through it'll stash that value in row 1, and row 2, and row 3, all the way until it's full. And then notice here, our return statement, we are returning R. So we're returning this array which was created here. And then back up here in the main method, we have another integer array called 10 random nums, and that says rand array 10. So after this code is created or is run, then there will be an array that has 5 random numbers and another array that has 10 random numbers. Okay. So the assignment for this class, and for this particular lesson rather, is to create a class named Scorekeeper. And I want this to have an instance variable of an array of integers. And I want the name of that variable, or the name is to be scores. Then I want to also create an array of Booleans and have that called has penalty. That also is an instance variable. So you can reference back up there at the top of the assignment there how to create arrays as instance variables. I want a default constructor that will initialize scores to an array of size 5, and let's have 100, like the value 100 in each row, and then initialize has penalty to also an array of size 5 and containing false in each row. Okay, so that should be pretty straightforward. Then I want there to be a custom constructor that accepts two arrays as parameters, an integer array and a Boolean array. Now that's going to be a little bit different from up here. This was an example of a method that just accepted one array, but you can imagine that if you were going to have two arrays, you just would have comma and then the type and then what you're going to call it, maybe bar for Boolean array. All right, and what that constructor needs to do is set the variables scores and has penalty. Oh, it has member. Has penalty to those parameters. So basically, allow you to customize what those arrays are. I want an accessor method, an accessor method that is named getScores, and it returns the array of scores. So that's not too bad. It's gonna, you can imagine what that would look like in terms of its return type, and then it's going to have a return statement. I don't think that's going to be very difficult. Get methods are pretty easy to write. And then write a separate class named Scorekeeper Client to demonstrate the Scorekeeper's functionality. So what do I mean by that? Well, obviously you need to declare a Scorekeeper object. Use the default constructor. Maybe also declare a Scorekeeper object using the custom constructor. Hint, you will need to probably create a couple of arrays before you do that so that you can pass them. Then call the, let's see, what was it? Accessor method. Call the getScores method for each object and print out the returned array. There we go. I don't think that's going to be too difficult. So in reverse order, the things that we talked about how to have an array as a return value. We talked about having an array as a parameter, so sending that array down to the method, messing with it, and then sending it back. And we talked about an array as an instance variable inside an object. Okay? So good luck writing your code, and thanks for watching.